This has been years in the making, a lot of silent nights, me sitting alone, having to cry, having to ask myself questions, trying to understand who and what I am and get to a point to where it's like, I'm not gonna run away from this anymore.
Yeah.
Yes, I am a nerdy, learning disabled Black girl who likes to get her nails done, and that's just what it is.
This is ADHD Aha, a podcast where people share the moment when it finally clicked that they have ADHD. I'm here today with Atira Roberson. Atira is a learning disability advocate, an education policy enthusiast, and a teacher based in Arkansas. Welcome, Atira. I want to mention before we even start chatting that this is not your first appearance on an Understood podcast. You were on The Opportunity Gap a while back. That episode is called Why Black Girls with Learning Disabilities Need More Visibility. Everybody should check that out. And welcome, Atira. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me back. I appreciate it.
Why don't you tell our listeners, when were you first evaluated for ADHD and learning disabilities?
That was at the beginning of my kind of educational career, if you will, around kinder and first grade. At the time, and this was in the early 2000s, I was going to a Catholic private school that my parents decided to put me in. And they pulled me out, put me into public education. And I got tested once I got there. I'm glad it happened because we found out I do have a learning disability. So I had to repeat first grade because I was behind. I couldn't read or anything like that.
Can you tell me more about what the evaluation found and what they were looking at?
I know now because back then, of course, my parents didn't really tell me much of what was going on. I just
knew
that these
We're going to
things were
talk about
happening.
that. Yeah.
Okay. So the textbook definition, I have specific learning disability. That means, in short, that you have a trouble with one or more basic psychological processes. So for me, this is manifested in the way I intake written or verbal information. And then, of course, the ADHD comes in because depending on my environment and all the bells and whistles of the world, I may have to ask you multiple times to repeat yourself, which doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not paying attention. It just truly did not click for me the first few times. And so I have dyscalculia, which is the way I can describe that is dyslexia with numbers and then an auditory processing delay.
Okay. So you've got a bunch of
Yes, I have all the things. Yes.
All the things going on. When did you learn that you had all of the things?
When I went into undergrad for my bachelor's degree, because, you handle your own paperwork and documentation and stuff because it's on you now. You're an adult. So I had got a copy of my IEP in my exit conference. So the school district I was in, around the last few months of school, they have you come into a meeting, and I had never been a part of them until that one. A lot of these meetings happen when I'm not in the room. They just have the parents. There was one instance where my mom did tell me how one of the meetings went, and it wasn't necessarily the best. They told her that you would be lucky if she just graduates, take that and run with it and, go on about your day. But I sat down with one of my college friends one night, and we were in her house just sitting on the floor reading over everything because I had never read it myself and read through. I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. It wasn't I wasn't sad or anything. I think for a while I was very ashamed of being learning disabled and having ADHD, but this is what it is. I use that term freely now. For some reason, it is a trigger word. Disability makes people kind of shake and kind of clutch their pearls, so to speak. I don't want to do that. I am learning disabled. This is what it is. I have an attention issue. This is also what it is. Yes, I have a learning disability, but I also like coffee and like to, do things.
Totally. I love that. That's a long time to go without knowing what's going on. So from first grade-ish to
pretty much my whole K-12
college
career. Yeah.
You knew your mom was going to these meetings.
Yes. I knew I was different because I was going to what they called resource room.
Right.
When I was in elementary, they pulled me for an X amount of minutes each day. And I thought it was fun. So I was like, yes, I want to go to resource room. I'll see y'all later. But while I was in there, I was still, learning and working. I think the reason if I take my hat off and think like a parent, the reason that they probably made the decision to not tell me is because they didn't want me to maybe use it as like a crutch or even feel bad for
Mm,
myself. But for a while, I did feel bad about myself because I was getting bullied at the time as well. So
yeah.
dealing with that and then knowing that you are different, but you can't put a finger on why you're different is a lot to deal with, just socially and emotionally as a kid. And then you're going to school and you're trying to deal with making friends and just be a person. Like I said, if I take my hat off and think like a parent, I can see why. However, me
Hmm.
being the type of person I am, there is a way to deliver information to a child that is digestible to
Yeah.
them. As a child, you're aware of a lot. I do wish that they would have been um more honest with me about that. I think that would have kind of helped me navigate that a little bit differently, and maybe I wouldn't have, I don't know, tolerated more than what I should have when it comes to just like the kind of
Yeah.
acceptance and shame that I had with having to deal with that, and then even getting bullied, because that pretty much happened for like my whole up until high school, because by high school people kind of quit caring about that type of stuff and it usually fizzles out. However, for like a big hunk of my K-12 career, I think that lack of confidence, people smell that, and so they take that and run with it.
Can you say more about that if you're comfortable with it?
Oh, you're slow, you're trying to cheat, you're making it, the teacher's pet and blah 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 and this and that, and just, those little, side comments. Kids can be mean. We can be
Yeah.
spicy at times, which that all goes back to what are you teaching your children at home? The
Hmm.
world is different. We're all different. I look different. I am different. That's just, what it is. I shouldn't have to apologize for doing or being what makes me who I am, instead of feeling bad about it and wishing I can change it. And there are times still, yes, because right now I'm in graduate school. I wish I could change it. I wish it was quicker for me to grasp things in comparison to other people,
Yeah.
but it's not. I'm not sorry for that. But I will say this has not been a linear process to the
Yeah.
acceptance. Let me throw that
I imagine.
disclaimer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, this has been years in the making. If you would have told me 3 to 5 years ago I would be sitting here doing a podcast interview, first of all, I'm so antisocial I'd probably walk away quickly if I saw you walking towards me. But you have to take into account where I was, who I was, and what I was dealing with. I wasn't, that confident person. Which still, I mean, some days my confidence is still a little shaky.
Yeah.
I'm having to work through that. I am in therapy now. I am, finally focusing on me and my mental health and being social and focusing on healthy relationships, not doing anything one-sided that puts me into a headspace or emotional space to where I'm questioning who and what I am.
Good for you. Do do you think that had your parents told you in an age appropriate way that it would have improved your confidence?
Yes. They told me like a little bit like, yeah, you're gonna have to work harder, but they didn't say you're gonna have to work harder because you have a learning disability. Your brain works differently. No, I didn't get that until I was older. I think that they should have sat me down, of course, in a kid age appropriate way and was like, you have this. This means this. And because of
Hmm.
this, you're going to have to do one, two, and three.
Yeah.
Was stuff going to happen regardless? 100% yes. However, I think I would have been like more prepared to deal with it.
So tell me more about your ADHD, Atira.
So I will say I am not medicated right now for ADHD. However, I'm an overly disciplined person. You see probably some type of physical indicators that, oh yeah, she's got ADHD. Yes, I will like kind of fidget a lot. I'll zone out sometimes depending on what's going on. However, for the most part, I can push through it depending on what's going on. Um, but I will sometimes have to be like, okay, no, what were you saying? Uh, and that's usually when like, okay, I'm tired of having to push through. I need a break. I need to breathe. Just go ahead and repeat it to me. I'm not even gonna try to pretend like um I caught it.
Your evaluation showed specific learning disability and ADHD. Just for
Hmm.
the record, ADHD is not a learning disability, but like it's coupled
Correct.
with your learning disability, and ADHD can
Yes.
make it harder to learn in a lot
Yes.
of different ways. Can you talk to
Yes.
us a little bit about your ADHD and how it manifests, maybe as a kid and then now?
Oddly enough, I didn't even realize that I had the ADHD until I was in undergrad and I was sitting with me and my friend in her house that night in the floor. And I had called my disability resource center the next day and asked them a question about what me and her had read over. And she was like, well, yeah, you have ADHD, so that's why we let you take your exams in the reduced distraction environment. It wasn't a shock, like, oh my gosh. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that explains a lot.
What a journey you were on your first year.
Yes,
You really learned a lot
absolutely.
about yourself, but everybody does. It's really a coming of age time. It seems
Yes.
like it was like really amped up for you.
In a way, yeah, especially when it comes to that, and then just kind of being out on, I guess, on my own, because I don't want to say that I was smothered. I think that because of the careers that my parents had, they viewed things differently, which also meant that they were going to attempt to protect and shield me from things. My
Mm-hmm.
dad was a police officer. My mom, for majority of my K-12, worked for the Department of Corrections. So I had two parents in the criminal justice system.
Okay.
They were very, I don't want to say strict, but I mean, yes, strict. And there were certain things that you could and could not do, certain things that you could and could not say. And to an extent, I get that, but I think that also played a part in like a lot of the shielding and stuff that happened. And then, of course,
Mm.
the fact that I had a learning disability, their mindset for wanting to shield and protect me from things was different based off of, I think, the things that they dealt with and saw every day in a way, which is, I guess, like, it doesn't take away, like, I do not resent my mother at all. If anything, she was the biggest fighter for me, because had she not been at these meetings pressing that questions be answered, I would have fell through the cracks. She
Mm-hmm.
knew that I could do things. Things, of course, are going to have to be done differently. So instead of just sitting her in the corner and giving her baby work, give her what you know she can do. Is it going to be challenging? Yes, but work with her. So at some point, then she won't, need any help. And at the time, I used to be like, oh my gosh, she is embarrassing me, go away. But now I
That's
see,
what moms
but
are
you
for.
have to
Yeah.
be, oh yeah, you have to be that type of person though, because if you don't, especially when you are a woman of color with a child of color, it's easy for these kids to be passed through the cracks. And I
Yeah.
have no business graduating knowing I can't read or write nobody's nothing. So I'm thankful to say, like, yes, I repeated first grade in public school because I could not read, because I was learning disabled and wasn't being properly supported at the school I was going to before that.
You mentioned that you think your parents, you know, didn't share all of the information with you for fear that you would use it as a crutch.
Mm-hmm.
Was there stigma wrapped up in that as well of what you may have to face?
Yes, of course. I mean, judgment, bad talk. I mean, you name it, people do it.
Yeah.
And like, I was already going through things anyway, just because I'm a naturally quiet person. I stay to myself. Unless I trust you, then I will kind of let my weirdness come out a little bit. Otherwise, I'm going to stay in my little corner and go about my day. People look at that as, a weakness. And they try to, once they realize like I was getting bullied and stuff, they put me in taekwondo and things like that, which was
Nice.
cool. At the time, I didn't like it, but looking back, I was really good at it, and I should have stayed in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
competed nationally and stuff, but they wanted me to like help break out of my shell, so to speak, and not feel so like
Mm-hmm.
shameful for being different, because I'm always going to be a Black girl with a learning disability and attention issue
Yeah.
until forever.
It's
So
like a double, triple stigma.
100%, yes, absolutely. I have a friend, her name is Alicia. We did a piece together, and there was a part where she called it a triple threat. A lot of people who speak out in this movement do not look like us. And so I think that's also why I'm not going to ever run away from an opportunity to speak, go to a conference or anything like that, because we look like people who have a learning disability. And so our goal is to be what we wish we had access to. I did not see my face in this type of movement. And so I hope that by me continuing to do these things, and there have been times where I will like hesitate a little bit, because I'm like, well, what is my little story gonna do? And like, you never know, everything happens for a reason. This is true. Do I wish God would directly tell me what that reason is? Of course, yes, but then that would take the fun out of the fun and challenge out of life for getting up out of bed every day because you already know what's going to happen. No, you need to get up and do your best to face it kind of head
Yeah.
on, which again is not, is not a linear process. This has been years in the making, a lot of kind of silent nights, me sitting alone, having to cry, having to kind of just ask myself questions, and my friends and my mom, trying to like understand who and what I am and get to the point to where it's like, I'm not gonna run away from this anymore. Yes, I
Yeah.
am a nerdy, learning disabled black girl who likes to get her nails done, and that's just what it is.
You got a lot of support through the church, is that right?
They have been very supportive of anything I have ever done learning this, because at this point it's public knowledge that I am a learning disability advocate. And at first I was a little shameful in even speaking about, my mental health journey. But having a pastor who is one of the most chilled, down to earth people you could ever meet, being able to be surrounded with people who I know I can call at the drop of a hat, who are willing to be there for me and give me their love and support, makes me want to be like, you know what? I actually can do this. I actually am proud of who I am and what I have, They are definitely a good group of people, a crazy, chaotic, dysfunctional family, but I'm thankful for it.
I do notice, Atira, like discipline is such a central piece of your story. It seems like you've got your parents' careers, right? You're talking
Yeah.
about your level of self-discipline. And I also know from a
Yes.
policy perspective and an education issue awareness perspective, the criminalization of Black girls, kids with disabilities. How does that show up for you in your own life?
I have to scale back because I have multiple people in my life who will tell you, if I gave them the mic for this episode, will tell you she's too disciplined. She's too hard on herself. She needs to go outside and walk and get some fresh air. She doesn't give herself enough credit. I just don't ever want to get to a point to where um I forget who I am, which I mean, the way I'm set up, that's just not gonna happen anyway.
Mm,
And I think the reason I still deal with some of that overly disciplinedness is just because of what I dealt with, in childhood and all that, from like the self-doubt and the bullying and things like that. And so in a way, I'm like, okay, to prove I'm not these things, I need to really like lock in and get this done. And
yeah.
not really to them because they don't matter anymore. They're not in my life, but to prove to me that I am not those things that people were claiming and labeling me as.
Yeah.
There's nothing healthy about staying up till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning studying and then
Right.
turning around and getting up, for work. And there's nothing good about going all day without eating and having your first meal at 5 o'clock because you just feel like you need to go, 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 go.
Yeah.
There is healthy discipline and then there is unhealthy discipline. I realized through time what I was practicing and what I am practicing, and however I'm getting better at breaking pieces of it. But what I was practicing was unhealthy discipline. It was at one point to where, my mom had to make me lunch. Otherwise, I would not eat lunch until I
Yeah.
got home from work. And it's not because I was just intentionally trying to just go on an unplanned fast, but I was like, okay, I need to go. I need to go. I need to do this. I need to go here. I need to have this meeting. I
Yeah.
need to meet with it. So it's
I
just
mean,
like,
that sounds
okay,
like
no.
ADHD to me. That
Yes.
sounds like
It's giving
hyperfocus.
ADHD.
It's giving
Yes.
ADHD. It's the, yeah, for
Yes.
sure. I love it. It's
Yes.
giving ADHD.
It's
No,
giving. Yes, you clocked it.
I know that you're a teacher now. Congratulations, by the
Yes.
way. That's
Thank you.
relatively new, right?
Yes, relatively new. Where I was, previously was just, a desk job, pencil pusher. That's not my thing. No offense to people who do that, but I am a purpose, passion driven type of person. And if I'm going to eventually transition to being a full-time education policy analyst and advocate, then I need to know what's going on in these schools. I need to be where the need is.
From enthusiast to analyst, right?
Yes.
What are you going to be teaching? What subject?
English language arts.
All right. So let's pause and snaps for that.
It's
Specific
still
learning
like,
disability
yeah.
and reading. I mean, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I haven't even so this was my first week and it was just like, I felt like I was in a car going 90 miles per hour.
Atira, do you have kids with ADHD in your classroom, and how do you support them?
So I am still learning all of my kids and their names. I have a stack of IEPs on my desk as we speak, so it would not surprise me if they do. However, my plan, I think a key to being able to reach any kid that you come across is be human. Come in with a sense
Hmm.
of normalcy. Don't be regular. Now, yes, you need to set the bar and let them know I'm the adult and you're the child. However,
Hmm.
I'm here. I care about you. I want you to win. Help me figure out what that looks like. You have to be, of course, mindful that it's going to take time to build that type of relationship that you feel like you need so you can help make sure that that kid don't just go to the next grade, but is going to thrive in the next grade.
Yeah.
And if I can do that by providing you a baseline safe environment for you to have questions and come to me, not just about your schoolwork, but just about things that going on outside of class that are going to impact your ability to do the work that I'm giving you, then, by all means, please do that.
They're lucky to have you, Atira. You know, you have like all of these experiences. You are so um, well informed about policy, and there's a lot happening in the world right now that
Oh man.
our kids need advocates right now. You've got your work cut out for you, and I can imagine you going very quickly from enthusiast to analyst.
I think it could happen. Yes, I agree. You
Yeah.
called it.
Thank you so much, Atira. I'm so glad that your students have you, and thank you for joining us again on an understood.org podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back. It's really fun.